morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me here. I'll be talking about security and regional cooperation perspective for the blue economy in the Indo-Pacific. I would like to begin my discussion with a personal reflection. 2 years ago, I had the honor to brief in a TECC 1.5 dialogue with several European officials. In the briefing, I talked about how Chinese illegal fishing and sand dredgers affected the environment, economy, infrastructure around one of Taiwan's outlying islands, and how these illegal activities may be weaponized as a prelude to military assault. The reaction from the European audience was that I think lukewarm is the best I can say. But when it came to cybersecurity, where another colleague discussed an event of cyber attacks Taiwan suffered, then many from the audience suddenly woke up. They showed great interest, even though the incident was quite different in terms of the context. So from here, I think this experience shows the reality of interstate exchange and cooperation. If an issue is thought as important for one country but not for the other, then there is little space for the countries to engage in dialogues, let alone cooperation. But if an issue is perceived to be related and common and relevant, then dialogue becomes thinkable and possible. So the same also applies to the main topic today, the blue economy. What I'm going to say is that blue economy is taught and practiced differently across the Indo-Pacific and between you and me. In Taiwan, for instance, insofar as policy is concerned, Taiwan is a latecomer, and there are many problems to be fixed and lessons learned. Luckily, there seems a change in policy in recent years, so I would like to discuss some of the conditions as well as obstacles, and hope that by providing a preliminary assessment here, some space for dialogue may be opened. So unlike the small island developing states like Maldives, where blue economy is a necessity as it addresses issues like food security, nutrition, employment, tourism and environment, and so on, the idea of blue economy doesn't seem to be well received in Taiwan. To be sure, many scholars, activists, NGOs do talk about blue economy, but at the government level, I think it is fair to say that blue economy hasn't really entered the political agenda until recent years. And this is strange because objectively, Taiwan is an ocean nation, but it only affirmed its identity as an ocean nation in 2004. And when the APEC embraced the term blue economy in 2011, scholars and NGOs also introduced the concept to Taiwan concurrently. However, the achievements of successive governments over these years haven't been satisfactory, to say the least. So, while proponents for blue economy suggest that we do have certain strengths or advantages to develop a blue economy, the government and also the public's attention to it remain insufficient. So we still don't have sufficient investment in terms of resources, in terms of talents, and so on. And also in areas like offshore wind power, new energy, maritime environmental protection, and sustainable coastal and marine tourism, Taiwan still lags behind other maritime countries. Another example is that the Peninsula Foundation asked me to talk about the term climate resilient infrastructure. And I did some research and found that very few Taiwanese scholars and also research discuss this issue. We do have colleagues in INDSR talking about how military bases can be better prepared in times of climate change, but even their work is or remains at the stage of introducing the concept. So to advance the course of blue economy, I think an epistemic change is required. A change on the part of the states is the foundation for regional cooperation. And in this regard, there are signs that Taiwan is moving towards blue economy, and I would like to discuss 3 factors or conditions, and I hope this can serve as a basis. The first factor relates to identity. Environmental issues need to be politicized or even securitized so that they are taken seriously, so that resources can be allocated. In this regard, the maritime domain has been securitized in Taiwan because of China's growing military strength and also its illegal fishing and sand dredging activities. The pictures to the left indicate that hundreds of fishing vessels and sand dredgers operating just outside the waters around Taiwan's adjacent island, Nadu, which is a small island very close to China. And the sheer presence of these hundreds of fishing vessels and sand dredgers creates a sense of fear, as if a military attack will soon follow. The picture in the center shows that how Chinese fishing vessels use green light to catch squids at night. And this creates environmental and ecological problems. And my colleagues from Nadu say that nowadays they only have tiny fishes in the market because all the fish have been caught and have been depleted by the Chinese illegal activities. And then the picture to the right suggests the vulnerability of infrastructure. This is the undersea cable, which was damaged 5 times per year by Chinese fishing vessels. So activities like this propelled people to think that maritime domain is important, not only in terms of economic, not only in terms of social society or social activities, but also national security. So safeguarding the maritime space is taken as a crucial part in the defense and security of Taiwan. So in this context, people began to promote blue economy and sustainable development, not only because the benefit, but also they can be used as concepts against Chinese illegal and harmful maritime activities. So we may say that rising maritime domain awareness is a spillover effect of securitization in the military and environmental sectors. So I think Ambassador Karim this morning talked about how non-traditional security issues can lead to conventional security issues. But I think in Taiwan's context, this can go the other way around, or this can go both ways. So while it is usually argued that the territorialization of maritime spaces is counterproductive for sustainable development as it hinders interstate cooperation, it, however, may have a positive effect on raising the maritime domain awareness. What required, though, is that how we proceed from here. That is, for us to acknowledge that protecting our maritime domain is necessary but not sufficient, and to resolve the problems, we should and we need to seek international cooperation. And the second issue concerns interest. Blue economy requires restructuring the relationship between environment, society, and economy. It is therefore necessary to reconcile the tension between sustainability on the one hand and economic growth on the other hand, inherent in the concept of sustainable development. So critics indicate that people may use the term as a cover, as if when we label something as sustainable development, we can do business as usual. And I have to say that this is also happening in Taiwan. But and in Taiwan, there's also a mindset of being a developmental state, in the sense that rapid and high economic growth in the past has made Taiwan known as a tiger economy. And so it is natural for people to think that somehow we need to recreate the achievement and to follow the past developing model. So as a result, while many challenges are raised by Air Marshal Mathiswaran this morning, are agreed by many in Taiwan, there remains to be seen how sustainable development and blue economy are translated into action. So if we ask people, ordinary Taiwanese people, they would agree that sustainable development is important. But when we talk about policy, when we talk about the allocation of resources, then it is another issue. So in recent years, there have been some changes because economically, pursuing a developmental state model proves not viable. Politically, given the threat from China, the government now also wants to reduce dependency on the Chinese market. So as a result, there needs a new model for growth, and it has come to be accepted that sustainability is a precondition for economic development. So whether in the current government's 5+2 industrial plans or the so-called 6 core strategic industries, the government tries to introduce the idea of sustainable development in the policies. So environmental sustainability and economic growth are now accepted as complementary with each other and mutually reinforcing, at least at the policy level. Now, the third factor concerns power. Even if countries have common interests and common understanding, they may find cooperation difficult because of lack of channel or platform. And I think this applies to cooperation between Taiwan and also South Asian countries. And so for Taiwan, this is more so, given that we are isolated in international politics. So in this regard, global and regional power politics also helps shape the course of blue economy in Taiwan. At the interstate level, to counter more aggressive China and to acknowledge the achievement of a democratic Taiwan, the US, Taiwan, and Japan have established this platform called the Global Cooperation and Training Framework, the GCTF, as a platform to utilize Taiwan's strengths and expertise to address global issues, including blue economy. I think this is important because the problems each of us face is always context dependent. So it is difficult for us to understand local issues in a faraway country or region. But still, we can have some common ground in the sense that all these issues, all these problems require people, require talents to resolve. So, okay. So talent training can be a viable mechanism on which countries can cooperate, or as a first step. And also, we launched with the US a project called Building Economic Inclusion via the Blue Economy last October. The idea was to strengthen, to empower women in these Pacific Island states. Again, so it is also a project related to empowering people. Then finally, I want to say that at the business level, power also helped them to keep up the momentum of blue economy. The example here is how Taiwan transformed its ports into so-called eco or green ports. On the one hand, it relates to how we change our governance system. On the other hand, the role of the European Union is important. Since the EU introduced this concept of eco-ports, then it becomes imperative for our company to transform the port so as to facilitate trade in the future. So I think in this regard, we not only talk about cooperation between you and me, between Taiwan and Southeast Asian countries, but also we can bring other factors like regional powers, like the EU, and how their standards, their guidelines, and to advance the course of the economy. I stop here. Thank you.